Hi everyone, welcome to the October 2015 meetup. Thanks to Marketplace for hosting us. Tonight we've got one scheduled talk and potentially another if anyone else in the audience wants to do one. But it'd be Dennis talking about DDoS and Infracoders. Interesting. This is David, I'm Matt, we're the organisers of Infracoders.
Any newbies tonight? Anybody in the first Infracoders meetup?
Welcome.
After our talk, we'll do a couple of community announcements and stuff like that, and then we'll have some pizza.
So community announcements, if it's your first meetup, that's the opportunity if you're sort of looking for a position or if companies are looking to hire, they'll usually call out and say that they're looking to hire. So it's just a good networking opportunity. It's also a good opportunity to call out any other meetups that are happening, conferences, and also if there's any topics that or a problem that you have and you want to discuss it when we sort of break off for dinner. That's for me. Michael is going to talk about Marketplace. Just quickly.
It'll be pretty quick. That'll be only about 20 minutes or so, David.
Go to the slide.
I have some prepared transference. Hi, I'm Mike Houston. I'm the dev manager for Marketplace. Pretty cool to be hosting Infracoders. I've always considered myself a DevOps, so to speak, an infrastructure coder. Back when it meant that you had to have two separate resumes, one for dev roles and one for sysadmin roles, otherwise people would go, what the hell? We make marketplaces, so if you want to be the next car sales and you are a big business person, then you can come talk to us. We are also hiring for JavaScript and HTML and Ruby on Rails, and also looking for people to help us out in the operations side of things. So helping us move all of our stuff from dedicated servers to cloud-based hosting and CDNs, and potentially Dockerizing our environments to make our test environments easier to work with and things like that. So if anybody's interested in that kind of stuff, come talk to me. I hope that there is enough pizza and beer for everybody. If there isn't, please not hate me. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. Now we have Dennis about some DDoS and environment.
Hi everyone. Okay, so as you can see from the picture here, this is how you kind of you think about traffic coming into your site, and you
Sorry, Dennis.
Yep.
Toilets that way. Go down the end. Go down the scary corridor.
So you often don't realize that behind your safe and secure wall, there's a whole bunch of water just waiting to come through. So in July of this year, we experienced quite a few weeks of DDoS attacks. They weren't obviously constant 24/7, but they were spanned over at least 3 weeks of quite significant DDoS activity. So we'll go through and let's talk about the anatomy of the attack, how we reacted, and what we learned. So basically the nature of the attack, and it was quite simple. It was persistent, we've heard more than once. It was not overly complex, it was effective, and it was persistent. So when we thought they went away, they came back, and just at different times we'd be seeing different activity. But the whole attack itself wasn't a real significant knowledge-based attack. So they didn't have really internal knowledge about what our systems or how they worked. They did have knowledge about a few different things. And what we noticed, being a WordPress site, is that we noticed there was a whole bunch of WordPress activity coming into our site. More so than you, like we sell WordPress themes, that's one of our biggest drivers. But when all these WordPress sites start talking to us, we start getting a little bit worried because that's not our usual activity. And it all started with just a little blip. So this is over a span of like 15 days, and that's what we saw. And we just saw this was the Nginx log there, and we just saw that there was this thing called, verifying pingback from WordPress, and this was only 570 events in 1 hour, and it had no effect on the site whatsoever. And that was pretty much the first mistake.
Yeah, but when you forget about him, it was just one.
So we didn't worry about it. We just thought, yeah, it's all right. It looked unusual. We noticed it, but we didn't worry about it because it just looked like a misconfigured service or misconfigured person that was scripting on our site, which we get a lot of as well. So we get a lot of unusual activity, or at least a lot of like scraping and spidering and that kind of thing. So we expect some people to screw up in their scripting and sometimes cause problems, and we normally just stop those through our own mechanisms. But this was the WordPress pingback attack, and it basically is it's intended so that when you register a link with the site, you can get the site to acknowledge your link back, and it is just basically this. So you can go through and make a call into pingback.ping, and you can put in your the victim string, so that was us, and just a reflector, and then it will just go off and start firing into your server. By default, this is enabled on all WordPress installs, and it's not very easy to turn off. So it did, I think, and I should have looked this up even more so, I think it has been in the latest, after version 4.2 of WordPress, I think it is disabled by default. But did that hurt?
Say, let's pretend this brain is a puny little ant. Did that hurt?
No. It didn't hurt, that first attack, so we were fine. But then we started to, when the DDoS attack really started kicking into gear, we started seeing this kind of activity. And so this is pretty much, here is when we got attacked the first time. And then at this point here, we've changed over to our DDoS mitigation service. And the rest of the traffic is along is that experience that we went through. So they're all the different attacks. And that's on, so 19 web servers, 30,000 requests each. 300,000 requests each. And that's just with the user agent WordPress. So they're quite significant traffic. You can see our normal traffic flow, and then you can see the abnormal traffic flow. We had one spike which also included this. So that was somebody else who was obviously trying to take down our MySQL server, and that didn't work, but it did do something else. So we had some layer 7 attacks, but what about layer 3? Yes, we got both. So we were hosted out of Rackspace, and when we started doing our mitigation service, we were talking in with Rackspace, and we were getting them to start putting in the mitigation services for us. We started getting NTP reflection attacks and some SYN floods. And the NTP reflection attack obviously looks like this. So you can send an NTP request with a spoofed address. That will look something like this. It's all in my own internal though. And you can see that the packet version, or packet size is there. You get a 234 byte packet, sends out a 338 byte packet. So you basically spoof the address. You put the address of the host that you want to attack is the spoofed address, and that will send a reply. NTP will send a reply back to that, so you can amplify the attack. We also got TCP misuse, which is basically a SYN flood, which utilizes the TCP handshake. And so you send the request in with a SYN packet to the spoofed IP address. That packet is acknowledged by the server, and the server sits around waiting for the response packet to come, which never comes back. During this time, you get a whole bunch of resources which are consumed. So, and the more that you have in there, the unacknowledged responses, the more you obviously utilize all your resources on the host. And so basically this happens several times.
How about this?
Okay. And so basically what did that do in terms of what was the outcome of those? So we got like a 6 gigabit NTP SYN flood at the peak. We had 10 hours of disrupted service for the month. We had that affected sales, and we basically, on average, would do $20,000 an hour. And don't know what happened to our sign-ups during that time or any other activity. Here is the transaction response time. All the red lines there from New Relic, and also the graphs from New Relic, and the response times there. The red lines are the outages which happen throughout the time. This is our throughput over the same period. We drop a bit around the start. Then we tried to keep the throughput. We always got the same activity through there through that time. And this is the comparison of downtime for that month. So all the other times was pretty okay. Then that month kind of stands out. So how did we react? Initially, we react quite well. We put in our DDoS mitigation strategy, which is basically the point DNS of Prolexic. Prolexic is it was a separate entity, now it's an Akamai product. And we also engaged the backbone team at Rackspace. So we started engaging them quite a lot and talking to them. So they have a device called an Arbor device, and it's a Cisco kit, which is basically designed to stop DDoS attacks. The thing is that we were being mitigated into that device on each attack, so we had to wait for the attack to happen and then call them and say we're under attack. Then 30 minutes later, they would stick us into the, once we got through the phone call procedure and verifying who we are and that kind of stuff and getting onto the engineer, it's anywhere between 15 minutes and 30 minutes really. So then we get into, then they'll put us into mitigation, and then the attack will cease. And there were some fundamental problems that we didn't really understand that were happening in that particular time within these processes. So the fundamental issues were, we weren't really clear on what mitigation actually meant. So we knew that once we were being mitigated, we were okay. But we didn't realize that after 24 hours, we were thrown out of mitigation back into the real world. So we said, we were going to our people and saying, look, we're under mitigation, why are we still being attacked? And they're saying, oh, no, we're putting you into mitigation now. Okay. Well, what happened? How did we fall out? Oh, no, you're out of the pool. And we just thought they were fucking up and, taking us out. but they were actually used just a time period, right? So you've done mitigation for 24 hours, and if nothing happens, then you drift back out to normal pool. And so of course we were saying, well, no, we don't want that. We want to be mitigate, make sure we don't want to come out. We don't want to be, we don't want to hop out. We're going, but you can't. We go, why? Because the nature of the attack is, also what nature of the device is that when you're under mitigation, you're stuck into a certain pool. And your traffic is scanned and looked after and managed and that kind of thing. So it has all these rules that are applied to the filters that are applied to the packet, the traffic's coming in. But you're also in there in that same service with a whole bunch of other devices which are under attack as well. So if anyone else is being attacked at the same time, and for different sites are being attacked, you're in the same pool of service, same pool of traffic as they are. If you stay in that pool of traffic, right, you will be affected by your neighbours, traffic, because you're suffering from the filtering that's going on. So you can't. Well, it's not good to always be under mitigation. We didn't know that, and we didn't know that for a week. And so we were talking to Rackspace, and we were saying, we want to be mitigated, and we were constantly falling in and out of mitigation, and we thought that we were doing something wrong or we're exposing different IPs, but we didn't understand what that service was, and it took a long time to deal with that. And that was basically, we found that out basically by looking through their tickets and seeing the traffic, the way they were talking to the other techs. We went through and that's what it is. This is not a constant on service. And so dealing with one provider is pretty hard, but dealing with two. So we also had Prolexic as well, and you don't really get a lot of information from them as to what they're doing or how they're doing it. So we had some security lapses in our network. We were pretty pro ease on developer. So we have developers who support our site, and they're always on call as well. And so we made things easy for them to be able to access the site. So we would have SSH available on each web server and that kind of thing. We decided after this point in time to close all that off, and not really have a discussion about it. We locked certain things around, so then we, made sure we had VPN access, to certain other sites and certain other things as well. We had a crucial application which came under attack quite regularly, and that was something we couldn't close off. We also had the attack went from one of our sites to one of our other services, to one of our other services, to one of our other services. So we had attacks going across. This is all from the graphs you saw are all from my particular thing that I look after, but we had our other services go down at the same time or at different other times. So we had attack on another service, we had attack on another service. And initially we had our normal on-call rotation in place. So the person on call who was just a regular developer without any particular networking experience or any security experience, they'll be getting the call saying, "Oh shit, everything's gone. How do I go off and how do I, we're under attack again. How do I, engage all the different providers that we have to get them to help us mitigate it?" So they were basically being exposed to something that they weren't very familiar with, and it was difficult for them to. We weren't really doing that very cleverly. We weren't getting people who actually knew what to do quickly into that position. Things we did well. So SRE became hyper-vigilant in support of the on-call developers. So we were basically very active in monitoring all the communication channels that we had, and looking for any signals that things might be going wrong. We set up communication channels effectively, so we were that's in the broader sense of how we let our community, our user community know, as well as the internal communications between our management and us, really. We developed a DDoS responders group, so that was a group of people who were more familiar with the processes, and then we made sure that developers were, well, people who were on call were very clear in how to escalate through to that group. And we locked all the crap down that we had. We closed off all the different loopholes that we have. And we advanced our plan to migrate to KDD, which is one of my component defense platform, which is the replacement for ProLexi. So that was always in the cards, and we were going to do it like that in 2 months' time. So we just escalated that. We got that one running faster. Okay, so what did we learn? Okay, so we had no evidence that there was any data stolen, lost, or even tried to be compromised. There was no unusual activity on any of the like people trying to sign in or anything like that, or any unusual account activity. So there doesn't really need to be a reason for a DDoS in terms of I want to get your information. This is just an annoying person who's probably just pissed off at this, or said, hey, that works, and just kept doing it. The most important thing is obviously you need to communicate with people, and Bardo has been very clear in the forums that they have, and also within the blog post that we had about what happened and why we were under attack, and what was the nature of the attack. And so obviously you need to practice these kind of incidents as often as you can. When we did our first initial migration through the ProLexi, it was run off a script that we had planned. Of course, that script was out of date, and so it took an extra 20 minutes of debugging and figuring out what the hell was going on to get that to work. So effectively doing these things more often and quicker is obviously better for you at any particular time. And that's it. Yes?
Apart from network crash going through the roof, what are the symptoms? Trouble connecting, ProcNet, IPv4, blah, 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 count greater than number of SIM buckets.
Yeah, so what we would just see is we would, in New Relic, we would be seeing red across the background, and we couldn't see, like we're obviously seeing the request coming in through, we basically went through all the different troubleshooting things we did. So New Relic was big, Kingdom was going nuts. We have went through every other process that we possibly would find, on the servers, on the host, checking memory, checking all the different other bits and pieces, and then we trolled through the traffic looking for unusual spikes, which is how we found it. But the hosts themselves, they were like, it wasn't the web servers or anything else that were being affected. It was the firewalls that were being flooded. So, and we don't have access to any of that internal monitoring.
Same problem. I was under the impression Linux itself would sort of mitigate the SIM attacks itself, dropping suspicious connections appropriately, but firewall in front of that.
That's right.
So you're just thinking firewalls then. I'm assuming that if you're in Rackspace, using Rackspace virtual firewalls?
No physical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing there was also, you've obviously learned not to expose your own public IP through systems to SSH. Not because SSH is a security thing, but like general practice these days, like what we do is like any public facing IP is not our own IP, it's a CDN. We use Cloudflare. You do it just as a plug for them because they're good guys. if you call in, you get really good engineers.
Yeah.
You don't screw around on the phone pages.
Yeah.
So you would firewall, even on my own personal site, I just firewall off like next to everything. There's no one publicly can get to port 80 or port 3 on any of the servers, and you only allow access from your CVE.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like the angle you're coming at from now, except for maybe
We had a multitude of hosts. So the our network traffic would go into the load balancers or basically into the F5s. And they would hold the public IP. We had we had 5 or 6 different IP addresses which were exposed. The normal public HTTP traffic. The web service themselves didn't have port 22 open to everywhere, but they did. Well, they were still exposed. What we did was that we cut off. When we turned over to Prolexic only required 2 IP addresses, HTTP and HTTPS. And so then when we started going, what are all these other IP addresses that we have? We don't know exactly what they all do because they're not contiguous, so you don't have like, a contiguous block, you just go with IP address here, with IP address there. And so we just started blocking them off. Yeah. And the only thing was that we have a FTP server, which was also under attack as well, and we were very much about that. So we just have to be able to device. One thing I did forget to say is that after we found out that there was this thing called auto mitigation in Rackspace, we went into that service, which meant that they unusual traffic patterns we would be then mitigated against automatically, and then after 5 minutes, unusual traffic taken out, mitigated against unusual traffic taken out, which was a big help, which saved on the 15 to 20 minute phone call to Rackspace to say, hey, you're under attack.
How did you find Rackspace as a vendor? Sorry, just to...
We're moving to AWS.
I missed what you said about the firewall. Is the F5 doing a firewall?
No.
It was overloading before the F5.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you get the corona in before it was over and it wasn't effective?
Sorry?
And Akamai corona, did you get that in before the attacks were over?
No, it's afterwards, yeah.
I guess my question probably comes up before is the biggest problem you have is the business lead time trying to engage the partners and get it in and out. What do you think it retrospectively would be better if you had your own robust definition firewall and CDN which is bigger by like API, or would you consider it like better leading on to expertise with people you know?
We would never be able to sustain that level of attack in NTP. If we didn't spend like a lot of money on kit, we just wouldn't be able to do it. The normal firewalls you get just don't have that capacity to sustain. Sorry?
Like doing it yourself versus getting the experts to do it, like would you be confident enough to figure the set that whatever the hardware yourself, or would you want to have experts doing it, just give it to them to take care of it?
Well, I don't know, it depends.
Attack and then mitigating that certain attack. So it's like if you're parsing log and you see these attacks, you can sort of add that to your firewall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it easier to hand off to experts not knowing what's going on so far?
You still have to analyze the logs to find what's going on. What you do get benefit from is obviously that these people see a lot of different attacks. Like, so people at Akamai or at Prolexic will see a bunch of different attacks and will be better at maybe mitigating against those attacks or writing up the plans for them. So in that respect, I think it's better to use a service like that. One, we couldn't afford to run our own service like that. You've also got the idea that they're distributed all around the world. and you have a lot of that benefit in there. So, but doing it all yourself is, well, it's not impossible, but
Moving down with, I guess, you got part-time representation trouble now.
yeah, yeah. And you can still run anything else you like beyond that. So you can do your own WAF, you know, down the stream, and we will be doing, you know, some WAFing. But within KDD, we get a bit of that as well. So
before they anyway, though, like get something further out, closer towards the people that are actually attacking you, like move it completely out of your network.
Yeah.
You know, they just move it through a cache seeding, make sure that when they're hitting an IP, it's not your IP.
yeah,
And then your files might be overloaded.
yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
think
right.
a general comment with attacks is you have to receive the whole packet before you can decide to drop it. So something like an NTP reflect attack, it's very hard to defend against unless you're using caches and those sorts of layers between you.
And Akamai have like internal networking stuff, which they do a lot of that for you. So a lot of that traffic, they don't send you the packet until they receive it completely, and then they'll send it on. But you know, we could never do that ourselves without spending a lot of money.
I think that's the big thing I see is that's not your value as a business to
Yeah.
mitigate attacks like that. It's good and you want to stop them, but Akamai and Cloudflare and stuff like that, that's their bread and butter. So
Yeah.
I would happily pay people that and solve the small problems that we have, smaller problems.
You mentioned a lot of changes while you're under attack, versus changes, detection teams. I wanted to understand what about the blip. You said there was a blip in mid-Nordic. Has anything changed about dealing with that so you're a bit more proactive at the beginning before the attack occurs, when you think there's a blip coming?
Yeah.
Is that
So
changed?
with KDD or with Kona, we get access to, so you can basically see the different types of traffic flow. You can see normal traffic flow that they're picking up as well. Within hours, it'd be very hard to see that traffic within our own, with the way that we've got Splunk, we use Splunk as our log collection, and it's hard to see something like that and go,
Been there before. So
Yeah.
Right, let's quickly engage the mitigation before we might get
Yeah.
anything positive.
Yeah. But we're now in a position where we're constantly being auto-mitigated. So if we get unusual volumes of we get volume attacks, and if we get layer 7 attacks, we can quickly get those mitigated. So,
Do you have any idea who was behind it, and where they were from, and what they were trying to achieve?
no.
No extortion.
We had no communication, none at all. So but they were active, so we would put up a blog post or a forum post saying, "Hey, we just FTP's been restored," and then boom, out it goes. So so they were very active in they were actively monitoring us.
So the pattern was like indicating time for
No.
Was any kind of geographical zone was coming from or something?
No, see with WordPress, it comes from everywhere.
Because I mean, it could have been like, for instance, the JavaScript API back when China changed something there for your WordPress. So obviously, when you sign this, but these files, we know it's from China.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There
this one was
no
a quick
indication.
capability, but also it's not.
Yeah. They particularly dislike one of our sites. So that was one of the ones they were using a lot.
So which of your competitors would like you on the
yeah.
You come up with
Who already abroad?
you come up with these strategies around communication. There's a sense of letting the community know what's going on, but not giving your attacker too much knowledge. Also.
Yeah. We decided that a lot of the community knew that we're under attack because the site was, not there. So we could be as honest and open as possible without saying, "Oh, we've now, done this particular task and that's all done." Yeah. So It was all just, it's still very businessy in the communication, but it was, you know, it was still very open.
More questions? You, Dennis?
Right. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Yeah.
Happily talk about something. Forget my breath. I'll just quickly talk about NAT in AWS because someone has just been bashing away at for the last 2 weeks.
Away from screens for
So if anyone's been to an AWS summit, they have a Ninja Black Belt Dojo something or other presentation where they talk about different ways to do advanced things in AWS. Timing. And one of the things is that I saw at the one in Sydney last year was this year, it was still this year, was about NAT in AWS, and one of the things was how to have highly available NAT. Let's see if I can find it. Don't have the NAT. Anyway, there's a publicized script that you build 2 instances, one in each AZ, and they are auto-healing because they're an auto-scale group of 1 and stuff like that. But the script itself is a bit rubbish because they just ping each other, and if they disappear, then they use the AWS CLI to turn each other off. So if you ever mess up the ping communication between them, they both turn off, and thus you have no NAT instance. But one of the things that Dean from AWS talked about in Sydney was using Squid proxies as well in an auto-scale group, so you could have sort of highly available proxy egress to the internet. And I thought, hey, why not just combine both? So I wrote a script which I'll open source later. I work at OzPost, at Odyssey, or OzPost, whatever. So I've just been working on this last 2 weeks. It's worth having a look at. So that build auto-scale groups in your availability zones, have them run Squid and make an ELB point to Squid so you can have explicit proxying, and that'll scale up as the amount of web traffic goes through, which is the bulk of most people's traffic. For things like NTP, which run over UDP that can't be proxied, then 1 instance in each AZ will become the NAT machine by using API calls to just investigate the route table instead of each other's machines, because the route tables have the useful status, which is route is black hole, and if route is black hole, the script will make the current instance claim the route and start doing that. So it sort of self-heals. It's not going to be sub-second takeover of the route or anything like that, but it's an improvement over sort of what was presented as the best thing in March. So yeah, I'll stick a link up to that in the forums, and if you want to contribute, we can probably make it a bigger script to cover more use cases, particularly if you don't want explicit Squid proxies. I haven't tested that scenario. There's probably some tweaks that can be made there. I'll stick that in the form.
Thank you.
So, who knows what day it is today? It's Ada Lovelace Day. Ooh. Okay. So, Ada Lovelace was the first computer programmer. She was born in 1815, and she was a mathematical prodigy. She worked with Charles Babbage, and in 1842 wrote the first published computer program. She was a badass computer programmer. And Ada Lovelace Day is today, and it celebrates the amazing women in IT and technology. So that's today. That's an announcement. Anybody else got any announcements they want to make?
I do.
Yes.
So the